So I think Luis whispered 2 minutes, but I might take 3. I certainly won't take 15. I'm not quite sure how to sum up, but I was thinking a little bit as we were going through the last session there, and I started the day making 3 arguments. Whether you bought those arguments or not, I'm not sure, but I end the day and I stand by those arguments based on what I heard today. I was describing sort of on a broad brush basis that the international cleantech innovation landscape, three things that sort of stood out for me. One is that this whole area is pretty mainstream, even though it sometimes is treated as somewhat separate. I think it affects pretty much every industry across the planet, every geography, and so forth. And, I think everything I've heard today has just reiterated that fact. It's strategically an important matter whether you're a small company, a large company, an investor, and even an investor, whether you're investing actually in clean technologies directly or you're not. You are being impacted by commodity price increases, by impact, for example, in the insurance industry of climate change and so forth. The second area I talked about was how tough I felt it was right now really to be an entrepreneur in this field. And, nothing that I heard today makes me feel any different. That doesn't mean that we should all give up because, the thing about the entrepreneur really is, their optimism is what wins out. But I think, we have to realize that whilst there is a lot of interesting science and technology here, in Spain generally, in Europe generally, in the world, we're in a very competitive environment when looking for funding to back our initiatives. And when we're looking for markets, it's a very competitive world that is moving very quickly. And therefore, it's really important, I think, that all of us are sort of clear and trying to access knowledge about what is happening everywhere else. I made a third argument about it being, an area that has gone somewhat corporate, and really hearing from the Spanish corporations just reiterated that to me. They are thinking about this in exactly the same way as many other multinationals. So with that, I started to think, about our own activity when we started in San Francisco way back in 2001 with a conference, I think, of about 30 people. We've grown into this sort of monster sort of network around the world. But one thing that inspired us to come here really was we've always felt we're not terribly well connected in the European network to Spain. And so it's been a great pleasure to be here for last night and today, and I hope, speaking on behalf of the group that I brought here, I hope that we're actually going to carry on some of those connections and that we'll see you when we convene, if you like, the wider international network in ecosystems in events like this, whether they're in San Francisco, whether they're somewhere in Europe, or whether they're in Asia. Because, the reality is I have a favorite phrase, which I think I know I stole from someone, I'm just not quite sure who, but the phrase goes that if you don't go, you don't know. And essentially, whilst we read about certain activities and certain companies in the Basque region in Spain, it's not until you actually meet people face to face do you start to understand, how the world looks from where you are. So I just want to end by really, on behalf of Cleantech Group and on behalf of the group who I brought here, to thank everybody here to a certain extent. But the hospitality we've received has been quite overwhelming, and the organization's been fantastic, and it's been a real pleasure. To Deloitte, who I know were instrumental in the dinner we had last night, and the privilege of being in the Guggenheim. But none of this, frankly, would have happened without Luis and the whole of the Innobasque team, who have been really supportive for the last 2 to 3 months. Phone calls in the middle of summer, where we were in various holiday places just trying to make sure this happened. And so my final words of congratulations and thanks go to him and his wider team. So thank you very much.